Topping our news this morning, a second suspect is now behind bars in connection to a series of stalking cases in Savannah. But authorities say they're still searching for one more subject. Horatio Reynolds has been arrested and is facing multiple charges, including stalking, prowling, and criminal trespassing. He's the second person taken into custody in this investigation. Nearly a dozen women have come forward telling investigators they were stalked by another suspect, Nathaniel Crawford. He remains in jail without bond. Deputies say a third suspect is still on the loose. This is video of that man at the View Apartments within the last month. If you recognize him or have any information on his whereabouts, call Chatham County Sheriff's Office investigators at 912-644-5136. Turning now to a story you will only see on WSAV. A Savannah gift shop owner is facing serious allegations. Thomas Henley, who owns Capital B Company, is accused of entering a woman's apartment and using cameras to spy on her. WSAV Sarah Smith shows us the shocking evidence that police uncovered.
Over a dozen spy cameras, clothes hook hidden cameras, memory cards, USB storage devices, air tags, laptops, and hard drives. That's just the start of the list of items Savannah police seized from 38-year-old Thomas Henley, the owner of Capital B Company on Broughton Street. The investigation began in April 2024 after a woman who lives in one of the apartments above the business reported suspicious activity. Items had been moved around in her apartment, and her deadbolt and front mat were in a different position than she left them. She reported feeling uneasy for about a month. Then the victim got creative. She set up her own camera and iPad on her living room couch. What she found hours later, according to court documents, was Henley walking into her apartment. Quote, when he opened the door, he paused for a second to look inside. He then continued walking in, closed the door, and then walked straight into the victim's bedroom. He remains out of the camera's view in her bedroom for approximately 55 seconds. He walks back into the living room, says okay, and then leaves, locking the door behind him.
We're looking to report on some of the allegations against the owner.
WSAV gave Henley and the Capital B Company multiple chances to respond to these allegations. The only response we got was no comment from a manager at the gift shop. A woman who lives in that area, however, did talk with us about Henley's behavior.
He's just a very strange guy. Super weird vibes, creepy, like just icky all around.
Court documents also show Henley was trying to cover his tracks. While detained, he made phone calls on a recorded line to family and friends, asking them to tamper with evidence and ask the victim to drop the charges, even going as far to try and bribe her. And there may even be two victims. According to documents, Henley allegedly was caught stalking another person in March 2024. A grand jury indicted Henley in 2025 for burglary in the first degree, invasion of privacy, 2 counts of possession of tools for the commission of a crime, and criminal attempt to commit a misdemeanor.
And that was WSAV's Sarah Smith reporting. Henley was granted bond back in April 2024 with special conditions and is expected back in court next month. The management at Capital B Company declined our request for comment. We also reached out to both Henley and his attorney, but so far we have not yet heard back. In a follow-up this morning, one of the men authorities say was involved in a brutal attack in Pooler that was caught on video makes his first appearance in Chatham County Court. Earlier this month, we first showed you this video captured in the Walmart parking lot in Pooler. Now the first arrest has been made in the case. Yesterday, that suspect, 34-year-old Motrion Williams, appeared before a judge. Investigators with the Chatham County Sheriff's Office say Williams can be seen on the video walking past the attack. During the hearing, detectives claim Williams knew the beating was going to happen and that the motive stems from the victim's testimony in a double homicide case, allegedly retaliation. Investigators say Williams was already out on bond for unrelated charges at the time of his arrest this week. Williams remains in custody and is due back in court next month. Meanwhile, the Georgia Supreme Court is denying another appeal from the man accused of killing and torturing 6-year-old Christopher Berrios nearly 2 decades ago. Back in 2007, George Edenfield was charged with sodomy and murder in the Glenn County child's death. Prosecutors say Edenfield and his parents were involved in the child's sexual assault and killing. Edenfield was found incompetent to stand trial and remains committed to a state mental hospital. In a unanimous ruling, the Georgia Supreme Court dismissed his latest appeal, saying he failed to provide a legal basis. The murder case remains open pending a determination that Edenfield is competent to stand trial. Making headlines this morning, representatives from 40 countries are in Washington, D.C. today for the first meeting of President Trump's Board of Peace. The committee's goal is to rebuild Gaza after more than 2 years of war. Washington correspondent Vinay Simlot has a preview.
Talking about reconstructing Gaza.
The plan to rebuild Gaza in 3 years, unveiled by President Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner last month, would turn Gaza into a transportation hub with coastal tourism. Israel's foreign minister says he supports it.
The security, stability, and prosperity of all depend on it.
The White House says President Trump's Board of Peace would oversee Gaza reconstruction, celebrating $5 billion pledged for the project. But the United Nations estimates rebuilding the territory will cost at least $70 billion. And the UK's foreign secretary says standing in the way of reconstruction, there's still violence in the Gaza Strip, even with a ceasefire in place.
Hamas has continued to attack Israeli forces, and over 600 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks since the ceasefire began.
And President Trump's Board of Peace does not include major U.S. allies. The president revoked Canada's invitation after Prime Minister Mark Carney's statements opposing U.S. tariffs. France, Germany, and Italy have not agreed to join, and the Vatican rejected an invitation, arguing the UN should manage this crisis.
That was Vinay Simlot reporting. Central to the ceasefire in President Trump's peace plan is disarming Hamas. The president also wants to create an armed international force to ensure security. So far, Indonesia is the only country that has committed to joining that force. Back here at home, the Savannah Black Heritage Festival continues tomorrow with the reopening and renaming of the Carnegie Library Heritage Center. This event will celebrate the rich culture and history behind the former Carnegie Library, the first library accessible to African Americans in Savannah, while also renewing the commitment towards learning and community bonds. The ribbon cutting happens at 10:30 a.m. WSAV is a proud longtime media sponsor of the Heritage Festival. In our community report this morning, one local group is helping new arrivals to the Coastal Empire meet new people, and yesterday an award-winning journalist from WSAV served as their honored guest. Our own Kim Gusby served as the keynote speaker for this month's meeting of the Savannah Newcomers Club. The event held at the Savannah Golf Club helped commemorate 100 years of Black history. The organization was established in 1949 and aims to help women make new friends and get to know their new home better.